Just when I start thinking that the technology of the gas tanks we use has gone about as far as it's gonna, Valley View RC comes along with some new thinking. And yes, the clunk line looks like it's a little different because it is, and we'll get to that in just a minute. The clear plastic tank really is light, but it's a little thicker than most to make it a little more durable. The screw-on cap is nicely made and has this heavy O-ring seal on the inside. The neck of the tank has a flat on the front end that helps it seal better. The cap and fuel outlet are all one piece, and that reduces the possibility of leaking even more. Just having a 3-line fuel system is nothing new, but it's how they do it that really makes a difference. One of the first things I noticed about the Valley View tank is that all of the plumbing is oversized, and that forces us to use the larger diameter fuel line that we should be using anyway. The fill and vent lines both have wider bases, and that lets them seal better because they have more sealing surface. The fill line has a metal down tube rather than just a piece of fuel line flopping around inside the tank. One of the really different things about this tank is this sleeve that's mounted over the line to the carburetor. That sleeve is there just to prevent the clunk from folding forward. If the clunk weight moves forward, the plane's going to run out of gas unexpectedly, and that can cost you the plane. And the clunk itself has this filter element attached that gives you another level of protection over getting junk in the carburetor. Mike is a friend of mine, and he needed to replace the gas tank in his Extreme Flight Edge, and he said putting this tank in was no problem at all. The biggest difference was having to use the larger lines. The Valley View tank doesn't have any odd shape or other things that would make it more difficult to install in a plane. This is the first time Mike started this engine with the new tank installed, so all the lines are empty. We could have used an electric starter, but flipping it by hand gives you a better idea of how easily the tank supplies fuel to the carb. And Mike's about to find out that the fuel got to the carb before he expected. It took several more flips to work all of the air out of the lines, but once we got it started fine the rest of the day. The engine in the plane is a DA-35 that's got a ton of hours on it. But give it enough fuel, and it runs just fine. Once it got a little heat in the DA-35, it ran just fine, so he didn't make any carburetor adjustments at all. I expected Mike to take it easier for a little while to see how happy the motor was with this new fuel system. But Mike just gassed it, took it up and started going through maneuvers to see if he could slow the fuel down at all. Mike needed to replace the tank because this plane was having some dead stick issues the last time he flew it. Keep in mind that the only thing that's different about this plane is the gas tank. Mike didn't change the carburetor settings at all from where it would dead stick before. Apparently Mike was feeling real confident about the new fuel system because he brought it into a Harrier down low. It's not going to take much of a hiccup from the motor to put this plane in the grass. Mike put his Edge through its paces throughout their maiden flight on the Valley View gas tank. And throughout the initial flights on this tank, there was never an engine issue at all. And Mike's real happy about that because he gets to fly his plane the rest of the day. If you need to replace a tank or are outfitting a new plane, you need to look at the Valley View RC tanks. They're very well made and have some new thinking that seems to make these tanks work very well. A consistent fuel flow to the engine is about the only thing that's going to save a plane when you fly it around like this. Mike flew this plane around all day like this, so it's obvious the Valley View RC gas tank is working just fine.